The next thing is to create a composition. So what is a composition? A composition is just like a sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro. The way you create a sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro is the same way you create a composition in Adobe After Effects. It's simply where all your footage lies in. Okay, so this is just like a project where all your footage is going to be located. So there are two methods to do it. The first one is you can create new composition directly from here, or a new composition from a specific footage that you've imported. But what I usually do is I just go ahead and come over here to this small folder down here, create a new composition. I just click on it, and then brings us to the composition settings. So the first thing I usually do is to give the composition name, which I can name maybe Adobe After Effects 1. So I just give it a name, and then you can come all the way to, you have three basic settings: the basic, the advanced, and the render settings. So in the basic settings, you can check on the presets. Usually you can check and select these settings according to what kind of video you are producing, for what kind of social media you are producing, or use it for course content creation, or for YouTube channel, or for any social media, maybe Instagram or TikTok. Depending, you just select the settings accordingly. Okay, what settings are you using? Usually what I go for is the HDTV 1080 to 9.97 frame rate per second, which is usually good for YouTube, which is what I usually make my videos for. Okay, so you can just go ahead and select it accordingly. Then you have the aspect ratio. You can change the aspect ratio according to your content. What kind of content are you creating? My own is 1920 by 1080. You can see it, which is the aspect ratio 16:9. You're free to change it if you don't want. And then the pixels. Usually I leave it as square pixels, and the aspect ratio I leave it at default. Okay, so you can change the frame rate down here from 29.97 to anything. Okay, you can change the drop frame. I usually keep everything at default. The resolution also, I keep it at full. Later on, I will show you how to change the resolution to fit in your content and to be able to fit in according to the speed and capacity of your system. Then you have the start time code. This is usually at 00, and then the duration is the default. Okay, what duration, how much duration do you want your clip to stay? How long is your clip that is you are going to be editing in After Effects? The default is usually 30 seconds. The timing here is 0 hours, for example 10 minutes, 30 seconds, and 00 frame rate. Okay, so I usually make it longer. I set this to 10 minutes so that you can have 10 minutes. You can always come back to the composition settings and change it accordingly depending on the message or the content that you have. If it is longer, you can come back and make it longer. If it is shorter, you can come back and make it shorter according to the footage that you have. Then we have the background color. You can click on this to select the background color, to select on any size, okay, any color. You can navigate around to change the color according to your content or according to your brand. But for me, I don't use any background color because most of the footage that I import are going to overlap with that particular background, and you will not be able to see any background accordingly. So I don't set anything as regards the background. I leave everything at default. I have black background and I work with it like that. Okay, so the next is the advanced and the 3D renderer. I don't touch anything in the advanced, so also I don't touch anything in the 3D renderer. Okay, I leave everything at default. So once you are set with all these basic features, you can just go ahead and click on OK to create your first composition, which you have just done. And what you see is you have created the first project composition. Over here you can see it, Adobe After Effects 1, and you can see the composition panel over here, which is the preview panel where you can see what you are editing, and then you can see it also over here. Okay, the composition have been created. So this is a composition, so be mindful of that. And another way to create a composition is you can easily drag a footage and drop it in this very folder. You can just drop it and it's going to create a composition for you directly, very easily. And you can see the composition, it's going to be named according to the name of the footage. Okay, so this is the composition, but it's named after the footage that you've created the composition from. So just be very mindful of this. It's very, very crucial and useful when you master everything on as regards to composition creating. So once you have your composition, you can see it down here. You've just imported the composition. What I usually do over here is I usually press the letter S to have the scale, so that I make sure everything is scaled to 100 and my footage are all scaled to 100. So you can see scaling over here. Okay, later I will show you how to navigate and bring in different functions accordingly. So this is very basic on how to create a composition. You can see now the footage is there. You can navigate around and see what is happening inside with your playhead. Okay, within the timeline, you can move around and see. So one thing you should pay attention to is at any given point, if depending on this capacity of your system, if you want to reduce the resolution, at least for you to work on the footage until you are done, then you can export it in the full resolution. You can always come here and change it to maybe 1/4 so that it reduces the resolution for you, and then the previewing power of the system becomes very easy, and the system can easily preview around very easily. So another way to do it, you can come to the preview panel over here, and you can see resolution over here, and you can just change it accordingly. Okay, you can change it to full, half, third, or thereabout. You can do that accordingly, and it will change the resolution of the footage while you still work on the footage. So basically, this is how to create a composition and to import your clip into the composition. You can see we have two compositions that we've created right now, the production ID and the Adobe After Effects one. Even though we didn't put any video clip on the Adobe After Effects, you can just drag any footage of your choice. For example, this one, you can just easily drag it and drop it into the timeline. Okay, and you can see it over here just created. So you can just navigate with the playhead to have a preview of what it is. Okay, so this is basically how to create a composition and then import your footage into the timeline and then start your basic editing.